In this video, let's talk about URL-based navigation. We are going to have 3 pages in this context application. Right? We're going to have a main context page that is going to show a list of contacts. And then we'll be able to navigate to edit contact page where we can edit the page or even just view the contact details and then navigate back. Right? And then we have another page, add contact page, where we navigate to add a new contact and then navigate back. So let's jump into Visual Studio and create these 3 pages so that I can demonstrate to you how to do the URL-based navigation. We can just start with adding these 3 different empty pages. So let's go to create a folder. Let's call it Views. Right? And then we are going to have to add a new item, and here we just type in page, then you can see contact page. Let's select the XAML page. C# page, that means that you are not going to have a XAML representation as a front end. Everything has to be added as C# class. So I would personally prefer to use XAML so that the front end and the back end are nicely separated, right, decoupled. So let's select this and let's call it contact page. So this is the main page. And then you can see that it has a title here. And let's just delete the page. And then we're going to add another one. So we can add another one, we can call it edit contact page. And then here we can just add a space and then delete page again. And then last but not least, we're going to add another one, and this is going to be called add contact page. And again, we're going to add a space here and then delete the page. Now we have these 3 different pages, but if we run the application, we're not going to see these 3 different pages. So let's start running it. So just hit F5, right, to run the application in debug mode. Run the application in debug mode. It triggers the hot reload for .NET MAUI, so that any changes you make in the XAML file will be reloaded and redisplayed in the application immediately. You can see the application runs, but no matter where I go, right, like it doesn't show those 3 different pages. So before we implement the URL-based navigation, let's try the hot reload. So let's go to the main page, because this is actually just displaying the main page, right? And if we change anything, for example, we change hello world to hello.NET MAUI, and then if we save it and come back over here, you can see that immediately the change is reflected. Let's stop debugging because we are going to make some code behind changes. The code behind changes will not be reflected immediately, so it needs a recompile and redeployment. So let's go to the app shell. Like we mentioned before, the shell provides URL-based navigation, and inside the constructor is a perfect place for us to register the routes. Right? In order to jump to any pages with URL-based navigation, we first need to let the system know that we have these routes that points to these pages. So one of the ways to do it is to say routing. Right? There is this routing, and then we can say register route. And then here you can see that the first parameter is a string, and that represents the key of the route or the name of the route, but it has to be unique, right? For that, we can say name of the class name, so name of the context page, right? So context page, we can do a control dot to import the namespace, and then here we need to provide the type. Okay, so let's go to the second signature. So the second parameter is the type. We can use type of context page. So basically now inside .NET MAUI, the system, it has a key and value pair. So the name of the page is the key. Right? It doesn't have to be the name of the page. You can call it anything, but it's easier if we just use name of the page, right? Because that's usually unique. And then the type. So later when you navigate to this page, it knows the type of the page, and then it will be able to construct dynamically on demand in the memory and then show you the page. That's just because it knows the key value pair, it knows which type to instantiate, right? So we have another two routes. So we're gonna register the other two routes. So name of edit contact page, and then last one is we're gonna have name of, and then add contact page, and then they suggest me to have the rest, so I don't have to type everything. Okay, now I register these three different routes, right? So let's demonstrate how we can navigate to these three different routes. First of all, I don't want the main page to be the home page. I want the context page to be the main page. To do that, we can go to the front end of the shell, right? Here, it registered the routes in a different way. So now I can say context page, and then here it has this local, and then you can see that this local is a namespace, right? Extended namespace, where I can say local, and then I can see what's defined under that namespace. But our context page is not under the local namespace. Our namespace for the context page is under context.maui.views, right? Context.maui.views. So for that, we can say views equals CLR namespace, right? And then here we can say context.maui.views. So it shows this directly here, right? So now we can use views to provide the type information, right? Views colon, then you can see those three different pages that we added earlier. So we are going to use context page. So basically this is the same thing as routing.register route. This route is the key, provides the name. If we navigate to definition, you can see this is a string, right, for the shell content. And then here is the type of that. So we provide a name and we provide the type. Now, if we run the application, we will be able to see the context page, but there's nothing on it. What we can do is we are going to add two buttons just for demonstration purpose. Later, we're going to remove it. So here, there's a label already, but we're going to add a button. And then the button text is to say, go to, just call it add or added contact. And then we are going to have another button, and we're going to call it add contact. And when we click on the added contact, we want to go to added contact page. For that, we will need to have an event handler to handle the click event. To distinguish between this button and this button, we will need to provide a name first. Like I mentioned last time, you need to use the X extension to give it a name, because the name property is not in the default namespace. So here, I can call it btn added contact, right? And then here, I can call it btn add contact. Now, if I go to clicked, I can tap to add an event handler, and that will have our name in it, right? And this, what it does is that it's not only just created this, it just assigned this string to this property, but also created a event handler in the code behind. It's empty, of course, for now. In here, we're going to say new event handler instead of select the existing one. We're going to say new event handler, and then now it has our name in it, and then created another event handler here. Like I mentioned before, we are going to create this context application twice. The first time we're going to create it with event-driven development. Okay. The second time we're going to use MVVM pattern. Okay. The event-driven development is easier to learn, so it gives us a lot of opportunity to understand .NET MAUI. And then we're going to move on to MVVM, which is usually used in different companies for mobile development, right? With Xamarin Forms or .NET MAUI. So that's why we have these two different ways of creating the same application. So let's continue. Here, we're going to demonstrate how to do the URL-based navigation. We are going to say shell.current, right? So this is the current shell, which is, let's go to definition. You can see that this current shell is a static member of the shell class, right? But it refers to the shell that we have in here, right? So therefore it knows all of the registered routes. So we are going to say go to async, right? And where are we going to go? So here you can see that the first parameter is shell navigation state, but it's really just the string. But it's not any string. It is the key of a particular route. So we can just say name of, right, edit contact page. Then it's very simple. It's just that we are navigating to this edit page. And then we can do the same thing here. You can say shell, right, current. We find the current shell, and then that current shell knows our register route. So we need to provide a key here. In this case, it's contact page. And that's it. Let's see whether it works or not. Okay, now we can see that the page is displayed, right? Instead of the original main page, we're displaying the context page, right? We can see the two buttons are connected to each other, so we will need to fix that first. So let's go to the context XAML, and then this is vertical stack layout. What it means is that all of the views inside the layout will be vertically stacked on top of each other, right? But it has a spacing. It has a spacing property here. So let's put 5 here, right? It's a unit. It's not pixels or anything. It's just a special unit. And then let's go here. You can see that it's nicely separated now. Now we can click on the Edit Contact button. You can see that it navigated to the Add Contact page, right? And if we click on the back button, it will navigate back. And then we go to Add Contact. You can see it went to the Add Contact page. Click on the back arrow, it goes back. Another thing we can do is, for practice purpose, we can add another button here, and we can give it a name. And we can call it btn cancel, right? And the text is cancel. This will take us back to the context page, so we don't have to use the back arrow. We are going to add a clicked event handler, right? And then we're going to do the same thing on the edit page. I'm going to add a button. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it btn edit btn cancel. And then we are going to give the text and call it cancel. And now we're going to create the event handler. You can see that it automatically knows that this has to be rebuilt. So actually, let's stop debugging, then create the event handler, right? And now we can go to the code behind here, and then here we can do it a little bit differently. We can do shell current and then go to async. This is the same, but here we can use dot dot. So dot dot, you know, in folder structure, dot dot means the parent. So we can use dot dot here to say that we're going to navigate back to the parent page, right, which is the context page. So we can use that. We can copy this and go to over here, and we can say shell current go to async dot dot. It's the same thing. Now let's run the application. So let's go to edit contact. Right, we can see we are on edit contact page. Click on cancel. This takes us back to contacts. Go to add contact. Click on cancel. Also takes us back to contacts. Right. Another thing that I want to point out is that if you want to use the actual name instead of the dot dot to go to the contacts page, right, you can't just use name of contacts page. Why is that? That's because if we go to the shell page, you can see that the context page is the first page, which is basically the main page, right? For main page shell navigation, when you use URL-based navigation, you have to provide the absolute path, right? So the way that we are navigating in context page here, we are just using relative path, right? The absolute path, it starts with // So let's go to the documentation. You can see that this is the documentation of shell navigation, right? You can see that the first level is the root, right? And it starts with // So if you want to go to the main page, you have to specify the //. So let's go here, right? If you do this, it's not going to work. So how is it going to work? You can use string interpolation here. So we're going to say // and then curly braces. So this provides the absolute path, and this is going to work. Okay, so let's run the application. And then let's go to add contact. Right, so now we are on the add contact page right here. And then clicking on the cancel button, this will take us back to the contacts page. So again, to navigate back to the main page, you have to provide the absolute path, or you can use dot dot. That's everything for this video. I'll see you in the next one.